If you've been a photographer for any length of time and you like to photograph people like I do, you've probably gotten a comment from someone about how it must suck that you're always the one taking the photo and never the one in it. You know, if I'm ever out and about taking photos of my daughter or my family, I'll often have someone offer to take a photo of the three of us together because the photographer never gets to be in the photos. And it's a very nice offer. You know, I'm not complaining about it. It's one that I usually say yes to, but I actually disagree with the foundational sentiment here because I had a realization recently that I'd like to share with you that I think will make your photos a lot better. I am in every photo that I take. It's a concept that I think I've been following for a little while now, but had to put any sort of intentional thought behind. So if you'll allow me to get a little philosophical with you today, I'd like to talk to you about how every time you compose an image, adjust your camera settings, press the shutter button, and even edit that photo, you should be in it. And once I convince you of this, I'm going to show you what to do with this new revelation and how it can make your photos feel so much more impactful. What's up? My name is Walter. I'm a photographer and commercial filmmaker based in the southeastern United States. And on this channel, I'm all about trying to put the fun back into professional photography. So if that's something that makes you feel like just, like you're taking the first sip of a Diet Coke on a hot summer day, then subscribe for more crap from me. I want to be clear about something from the outset here. I am a photographer who focuses mostly on documenting people. So this includes weddings, portraits, events, families, my own daily life. So whenever I talk about photography, I'm mostly speaking about it through my own personal lens here. I think that was probably already mostly clear from the photos you've seen in this video already, and if you've watched some of my other videos before, but I feel like I just needed to clarify that. I do think that even if you don't photograph people as much as I do, like if you do, landscapes or architecture or wildlife or anything like that, the topic of this video still very much applies to you. Basically, I think if you are a photographer and you see photography as inherently an art form, then this video is something that absolutely applies to you. So let's talk about how it is impossible to remove yourself from any photo you ever take. I think a good place to start here is a more zoomed out conversation about art itself. Like I mentioned a few seconds ago, photography is an art form. Now, I've talked about this briefly in other videos I've done, and while most commenters took that as a given, I've actually gotten a couple of comments here and there from photographers who don't see it that way. They don't think it is inherently an art form. And I'm here to say that I think that perspective is completely valid. Far be it from me to try to tell someone what is and is not an art form objectively. It's completely up to the individual to decide if their hobby or passion or whatever it is should be considered art. That's totally fine. I mean, I disagree entirely, but it's totally fine. What's most important to keep in mind here in this conversation is that every photographer's perspective, opinions, and lived experience are valid. We're more than welcome to disagree with each other about anything and have conversations around all that because that's what art has always been about since the beginning of time. Now, I'm not a historian by any means, so I'm not going to take any time going down a historic rabbit hole of how photography started, who were the first photographers to really capture art with the first cameras ever, none of that. But I would like to compare photography to other art forms and how those are viewed and interacted with, especially the artists behind that art. So let's look at Van Gogh really quick. His work is legendary and his name is now a household name. I'm sure as soon as I said Van Gogh just now, your brain conjured up Starry Night or just Impressionism in general. And I think what's most interesting about Van Gogh and his work is how intrigued we are not just by his work, but by his life and who he was as a person as well. His work is obviously what got him famous, but that work was so intriguing to everyone that we wanted to know everything about him and his life as well. We wanted to know what drove him to create the paintings that he did, and knowing about his life and his legacy makes us see his work through him as a person. What I mean is his paintings have more impact and more intrigue because we see how his life and lived experiences came through in his paintings. We can know more about Van Gogh's mind through his work, and we feel more connected to that work because of our understanding of his mind. Knowing about Van Gogh's mind and his life alters the way we see his paintings and vice versa. Seeing his paintings makes you wonder about his life. It makes you wonder what made him conjure up certain scenes that he wanted to put paint to canvas to in order to create that scene with that composition and those colors that he chose. What I'm trying to say is he put himself into every painting he did. And as photographers, we do the same thing. Now, I am, of course, not comparing myself or any other photographer to Van Gogh, not at all. I'm just trying to illustrate the point that as photographers, as artists, we are also putting ourselves into every piece of work that we create. So let's draw another comparison, but this time to a photographer instead of a painter. We'll do another easy one, Ansel Adams. Interestingly, I'm drawing a comparison to a famous landscape photographer, not one like me who photographs people, but I think Adams is such a good example of putting himself into his work where there are no people, which can be a little bit harder. So on the surface, Adams's photography might just look like pretty images of sweeping landscapes in that beautiful black and white style that he did. Deep, rich tones and an emphasis on light and mood over silly things like color, okay? But once you start reading about his life and what he valued, you'll learn that he was an avid environmentalist. Just knowing this simple fact about him gives his photos so much more depth beyond what you can see with your eyes. It makes you really feel his love for his subjects, which were, of course, landscapes. But even still, you could already feel that love and passion that he had for the environment just by looking at his photos. They're carefully composed. There's a ton of attention paid to perfect lighting to showcase mountains and valleys and all that falls between. And there's a feeling of open movement even in these still images. Ansel Adams put his values, his passion, and therefore himself in his photos, and he's forever immortalized for doing so. So if you view your photography as art, then you should have no choice but to put yourself in your photos. And this is where a lot of people with boring photos are kind of missing the mark, making their photos never quite hit as hard as they might want them to. If you're consistently unhappy with your work because you just feel like it doesn't have the same impact as some of the photos you've seen from other photographers, I can almost guarantee you that it's because you're keeping yourself out of it. And if you do this, you're doing both your work and yourself a massive disservice. You have a superpower as a photographer. You have the capability to see things in ways that other people do not. You're able to notice light and moments that no one else does. And if you want to take photos that really feel like something, you should be taking photos with your eyes, even when you're not holding a camera. You should be finding potential frames everywhere you look. You should always be looking at light, always noticing every potential moment. And if you're not doing this, if you're only photographing people and things in ways that you think you should, just because, quote, that's the way it should be done, then you're not going to see the growth that you want to see in your work, nor are you going to feel that your photos will ever have the same impact as the photographers that you look up to. Because those photographers, the ones killing it, making incredibly impactful photos that make you feel something, they're putting themselves entirely in their work. They're saying, I created this art born entirely from my perspective and how I see things, take it or leave it. They're unapologetically themselves, and their work is so much stronger for it. And this is not me saying that I think I'm incredible at this. Putting myself into every photo I take is a skill I'm always trying to pour into. It's a muscle that I'm always trying to exercise. So please don't think that I'm like trying to make myself out to be this incredible, groundbreaking photographer, because I certainly don't think that I am. But I can't deny that my photography got so much better when I started understanding that who I am and what I value not only massively shapes my photography, but that I should actually let that almost be the entire driving force behind why I photograph what I do in the way that I do it. So what's interesting about this concept is that as you change, as you grow, your photos change and grow too. I've been a photographer for about 10 years now, and whenever I look back on my work over those years, I can clearly see how my photos have changed. Yes, they've changed because I've gotten better as a photographer, better at composing, better at noticing moments, better at editing, etc., all the technical stuff. But they've also changed because I have gone through a lot of personal growth throughout those years, completely unrelated to photography. When I first got started, I was a poor college student trying to figure out who I was as a person and what I valued. At the time, I valued my friends, having fun, exploring new places, live music, big moments, big emotions. Now, I'm obviously older, and my life has changed a lot, and I've changed along with it. My career has evolved and finally taken shape into something I'm proud of and happy with. I moved to a new state, I got married, I started a family, and I've dealt with a lot of lows and a lot of highs, and all that stuff is shaping me into who I am today. And so now my work reflects me as that person that I am today. I place a much lower emphasis on exploring new places, live music, big moments, big emotions. I still value my friends and having fun, but the way I value those things is is different because I have different friends and I have fun in different ways. I no longer really care about big moments and big emotions because frankly, those are exhausting to me now. I love the small moments and the small emotions because that's what keeps me grounded now. I have a very busy life with a lot of responsibilities and decisions that I have to make every day. So I'm actually kind of scared of big moments and big emotions now. I find way more joy in life in the everyday. My daughter playing in the living room or the backyard, the way the light hits the top of the trees in my neighborhood in the fall, or all the small unplanned moments at every wedding I shoot. These are the little things we live every day. A lot of us ignore them or don't notice them, but as a photographer, I get to pay attention to them and document them. And that right there is how I put myself in every photo I take. Every little moment I see, every splash of light that comes across my vision, I get to decide if and how I photograph it. It's up to me to compose that frame and when exactly to press the shutter button to forever freeze that one small moment. A moment that can live forever because I let my values and my mind dictate how I document the things that I see. And I'm sorry if that sounds pretentious, but I don't care. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I hope it resonates with you as well. So enough about me. Let's talk about you. It's time to ask yourself some hard questions, and hopefully, if you're honest with yourself, you'll be able to see what you're missing and how to fix it. So questions like, what's important to me? Take a good stock of your current state in life and ask yourself some follow-up questions. Are you single, married, kids, no kids? What do you choose to do in your spare time? What are your other hobbies or interests other than photography? What kind of music do you like? When was the last time you watched a movie and felt inspired? What did it make you feel inspired to do or think about differently? It might even be helpful to physically write down or type down some of these questions. Let me my fingers. That's typing. That's how you type. and your responses. This will give you a really good idea of where you are in your life right now and what you value the most. Maybe you're young like I was when I started, and what's most important to you right now is your friends, making new experiences, and enjoying some freedom. So you want to spend a lot of time with your friends and travel with them, go to new places, see new things. Let your camera be your tool to show the world how you see those new places and things, how you see your friends. Let those photos you take properly portray the sense of wonder and excitement that you feel in those moments. Maybe you're older than me. Maybe you have grown kids or they're even out of the house already. You might value peace and more extended breaks from people. So you want to go out into nature some more and therefore want to photograph landscapes or wildlife in a way that feels peaceful. Let those photos you take have a sense of calm and comfort. Let your landscapes feel soft and quieting, or your photos of birds and deer feel grounded in the nature that you're standing in. It's been really helpful for me to sometimes stop and take a good look at what's going on in my life, how I feel about those things, and how I respond to them, because I can't control what happens to me. I can only control how I respond to those things. And if I choose to respond in negative ways by getting angry or frustrated or shutting down, then I've noticed that my work suffers because of that. But when I understand that I control my mood and attitude and I choose to live in peace regardless of what's going on around me, I've noticed that my work feels so much better. It has more life in it because I feel more life within me. So what do you think about all of that? Have you been struggling with feeling like your work just isn't hitting those emotional beats that you see in photographers' photos? Have you felt kind of disconnected from your work because lately it's just felt like work, like a paycheck? You know, I make content here on YouTube specifically for other professional photographers, people who make some sort of income from photography. And that's where it can sometimes be the hardest to make impactful work. It's a job and you feel the expectations on you from clients or your boss or whomever to make good work. There's pressure there, no doubt about that, but I've noticed that every time I start going through the motions and kind of dropping the intentionality that we should all have with our work, I'm just not as happy with those photos. But every time I'm engaged in letting myself and my values be that driving force behind every frame that I capture, it's so much more impactful and I make work that I'm very happy with. So let me know in the comments what you think about all of that as I do my best to respond to everyone in due time. Please check out my website and Instagram, both linked in the description. You're free to DM me on Instagram if you'd like and ask me whatever you want because I love connecting with people there. And you can support what I'm doing on this YouTube channel. You can support what I'm doing on this YouTube channel by simply liking the video and subscribing, both things that tell that dumbass algorithm that this is a video that more people should see. And if you subscribe, you're guaranteed regular photography content as I make one video a week all about putting the fun back into professional photography. And you can support me even further by checking out my Bougie Film preset pack, again with a link in the description. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's totally fine, because I will see you in the algorithm in 6 months.